David here.
Guzikowski here.
Oldani here.
Seifert here.
If everybody'd please take a look at the approval of the minutes from April 27th. And when you are satisfied, there's no errors, omissions, corrections, or discussion, a motion, please.
Seifert moves to approve the minutes of April 27th, 2021.
Oldani seconds.
Roll call.
Hannah here. Hannah, aye.
Sullivan, aye.
Rillo, aye.
David, aye.
Guzikowski, aye.
Oldani, aye.
Seifert, aye.
Thank you. Gets us the significant common council actions. Carrie?
There were no council actions, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. And that gets us to item 5. It's the Board of Housing and Zoning Appeal Actions, and this is a new report for us, and we have Laurie Miller with us.
So we have appeal number 21001. It was at 9921 South Shepherd Ave. It was a request for variance of Oak Creek Municipal Code Section 17.0307 F2, which states there shall be a side setback on each side of all principal residential buildings of not less than 10 feet in width. After examining the testimony and facts presented, the Board of Zoning Appeals denied this variance of 6.75 feet for a side setback of 3.25 feet for a garage addition. The appellant hadn't proved that they have any exceptional circumstances in this case, nor would his property rights be limited if he did not get the variance.
Questions for Laurie? Okay. Thank you very much, Laurie. Appreciate that. That will get us on to our first item of the night. Item 6A, and it is a plan review of site, building, and related plans submitted by Jim Kane Truck Country, McCoy Group, for a truck sales and service building on properties at 9970, 120, and 140 South 20th. Gary.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is part of an ongoing review process. As the Plan Commission may recall, this was subject of a certified survey map that was approved by the Common Council in April of this year. There is an official map amendment that is currently pending, and it will be before the Common Council at a hearing on June 1st. The zoning of the properties is M1 PUD. This is also subject to Ordinance 1294. That was from 1987-88, and that's where the PUD comes from. It is also located in South Branch Industrial Park. Proposal is for a 92,865 square foot truck sales and service building. You'll note that the square footage is slightly different than what was stated in the report, and that's for the additional information for the mezzanine area. This is not a two-story building per se, but there is a mezzanine area that will have some office space above. The proposal includes outdoor truck parking, storage, and display of merchandise. I believe they also are going to be doing some engine and body repair. So that'll be the subject of some conversation this evening, as those uses are actually considered conditional uses in the M1 district. So this is a consideration by the Plan Commission for uses that may require additional information, but it was up to the applicant to proceed with plan review this evening and ask for the Plan Commission to review those plans. At a minimum, we believe that the Plan Commission will have to at least approve the uses, but that must occur at a different time, which means that we may have a difference in the motion for this evening that will be recommended. It is up to the Plan Commission to determine whether or not conditional uses, in addition to or in lieu of that use approval, will be required. In any event, the conditions for every single one of these reviews will identify the limitations on the storage for the exterior of the property, as well as flammable and hazardous materials. That is included in the conditions that is in the report. If we turn to the proposed site plan, we will take a look at these plans as they are proposed with that information in mind. That additional reviews may be required. Setbacks and dimensional requirements appear to be met for the building itself in these proposed plans. We will be discussing the buffer yard requirements for the property itself. Access is from Ridgeview Drive only. You'll recall that there was some consideration for whether or not there would be additional accesses to this property. The only other potential access, if you will, would be for restricted to utility purposes, and that would be from Judith Place. That's still being coordinated with the water and sewer utility. That, again, would be restricted. That would not be for any other access point except for utility maintenance of the existing infrastructure on the property. In the site plan, we are showing 109 passenger parking stalls. There may be a couple of extra parking stalls or a few that have been removed. Plans are currently slightly in flux. Those are located mostly on the north and on the northeast. There are over 320 truck, trailer, RV, and service stalls. That's for the entirety of the property. That includes all of the outdoor storage and display areas, all the service areas, and all of the inventory. There have been some comments from the engineering department regarding outstanding drainage, grading, and stormwater issues. We recommend that the applicant continue to work closely with the engineering department to ensure that those concerns are addressed. There was a neighborhood meeting regarding this proposal. We want to thank the applicants for coordinating that and answering the neighbors' questions and incorporating their concerns into the revised plans. Minimum parking requirements for the proposal, they seem to be more in line with motor vehicle sales establishments and motor vehicle repair, maintenance, and service stations, even though this is specifically for trucks, trailers, and RVs. With that in mind, the requirements are listed on the screen. That would also include about 74 employees, although we are not entirely certain what each of the employee functions are. So 74 employees for the entirety are anticipated for first shift, which is the peak shift. Anticipated hours of operation, sales, and service are broken out on the screen. Deliveries will happen during those business hours as well, slightly before the sales portion opens. As will be discussed during the buffer requirements discussion, the vehicle display ramp that is shown on the east side of the property is not supported by staff. With regard to the buffer requirements, most of this is going to be concerning the south property line and the east property line. On the northwest, you'll notice that there is a significant stormwater stormwater pond with some landscaping for the parking areas. The landscape islands that are shown within the stalls are for the truck parking areas. Turning to the northeast, you'll see where the passenger vehicle parking areas are mostly located. That has been incorporated with landscape islands and perimeter landscaping. Along the east is where we begin to see the truck parking areas. And I've highlighted two of the areas on the northeast for discussion. The reason that we are going to be discussing buffer yards is because it is a requirement in code that a buffer yard shall be created and maintained around all business and manufacturing districts which abut upon residential districts and which are adjacent to freeways and limited access arterial streets and highways which abut upon residential districts. In this case, we have both. We have I-94 to the east and we have a residential neighborhood to the south. So that's why we are going to be discussing buffer requirements for both of those areas. The buffer yards are a minimum of 20 feet, and that's in addition to the required setbacks. The parking on the east is an interesting situation because we do have an ordinance from 1987-88, as mentioned previously, that established a setback for parking to a public right-of-way of 40 feet. Now, some plan commissioners may recall that the 40-foot setback for parking in the M1 district had been established by code, but was amended several years ago to 30 feet. So we have a little bit of a disconnect between what is required by code and what is required by the ordinance. In any event, there would be a 20-foot buffer requirement on top of that setback. It's also required in the setback to, or in the buffer yard rather, to have adequate screening, and that's using either a fence, vegetation, or a combination thereof. And as proposed, there is a chain link fence proposed around the entirety of the property, 8 feet tall, no privacy slots or anything else that has been proposed, so we are looking at vegetation to screen. Per staff's review, the proposed vegetation does not adequately screen the use from I-94. Additionally, signs are not allowed in buffer yards, and as was discussed during the certified survey map review, the existing billboard would not be allowed to be relocated on the property. Either it's going to stay where it is per the agreement as needed, or it'll have to be removed. The vehicle display ramp is in the purple box on the right. You'll notice that there is an island that does not include landscaping, then there's an island that has trees behind it. The landscaping proposed in front of it is proposed to be installed at a maximum height of 36 inches, which would not adequately screen that vehicle display area. It's staff's opinion that the vehicle display area serves as additional signage or advertising for the business. And as stated in the buffer language, signs and advertising are not allowed in the buffer area. So we have this continued discussion about what is required along I-94 to adequately screen that truck parking and storage area. Additionally, outdoor display of merchandise is not specifically listed as an allowed use within the M1 manufacturing district, and similar requests for vehicle display areas have not been supported in recent projects. This is an example from Cedar Rapids, Iowa, showing you what that vehicle display area would look like, along with some of the truck parking and display area. This is seen from a freeway as well. On the southeast, and as we continue to look at the landscape plans to the southwest, this is the area that has the most significant buffer for that residential neighborhood. It is a berm, and this is where some of the engineering concerns are going to be coming into play with the drainage issues. So we recognize and appreciate very much that the neighbor concerns were brought into these plans for the buffer yard area. Just need to make sure that that drainage is also incorporated. And it was actually extended to the southwest as well. Moving on to the building itself, the materials that are proposed for the primary exterior are precast concrete panels in 3 different shades with burnished block at the base on all sides of the building. Corrugated metal panel accents are on the northeast corner and north on the service side, so that's what we're looking at here. There are windows throughout the building, however, except for the northeast corner, most of the windows are transom windows. So staff is recommending that the design be consistent with business park architecture, which includes canopies over the doors and windows, or things like additional parapets, or variations in the roof line, articulation or modulation of the building. We're looking for this to be part of a business park as where it's located. We're also recommending that mechanical units that are not yet identified for locations on the building be screened, either through the use of the roofline parapet or through screening materials as would be either approved by the Plan Commission or by the Department of Community Development. So this is the location on the south, showing where the exit bays are. And the proposed elevation on the north, it includes that corner where the office portion of the operation will be, as well as the entry bays. And here's a rendering of what the building would look like. We have been told by the applicant's representatives that this is not quite exactly what the representation of the building should look like. There's a little bit more relief There are some canopies that aren't necessarily clear from this rendering. However, staff's comments remain. Couple extra notes. Lighting, we require that the fixtures be directed downward, shielded, especially shields on the residential side, and that there would be limited to a maximum of 3,500 kelvins. That is included in the suggested motion. There was one trash enclosure that was proposed on the south of the building that would be precast, but we do not have details for the gate. As previously mentioned, there are some signage representations in the plans. However, signs are not part of this review. There was one monument sign location outside of the cul-de-sac area that does meet setback requirements, but no additional signs will be allowed within any buffer yard. No pennant flags, light pole flags, permanent banners, or flashing or blinking signs will be permitted as part of the development. As mentioned in the staff report, for the various reasons cited, staff does not support this as presented. However, the Plan Commission does have the opportunity to review the plans. And while we do have a suggested motion for approval with several conditions, there is some indication that with the requirement for the use approval and or conditional use, that this item should be held pending the decision by the Plan Commission as to what review process would be required. Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Carrie. Appreciate the narrative. Applicants, welcome. I'm going to give you the floor for a while, and then we have a couple of neighbors that want to say a few words. So.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor, members of the Commission. Carrie, thank you for that introduction. Brian Spott here with Davis & Kilthau, attorney for the applicant, 111 East Kilbourne Avenue, Milwaukee, 53202. You might be used to seeing my colleague Brian Randall up here. With respect to this project, but Brian's double booked tonight, so I'm here in his place for him. So for Truck Country today, we have with us various members of our project team that can speak on behalf of Truck Country's site plan and operations and answer any questions that the commission might have. Myself, Chris Johns here, architect. And we have Justin Johnson with JSD, Kevin Byrne, our landscape architect, Dave Bernard with Truck Country. So if you guys have any questions, we have our project team here ready to answer any questions for you guys. Truck Country is a part of McCoy Group, Inc. It's a family-owned full-service truck dealership with new and used truck sales, with repairs and parts for trucks and trailers. It's currently operating in the city of Oak Creek at 222 West Ryan Road, as well as in other Midwestern states, as Carrie showed earlier today, including Illinois, Iowa, Indiana, and Ohio. Truck Country's current operations on Ryan Road are literally like busting at the seams. So it wants to move its operations to the South 20th Street parcels, which are to be combined by the CSN that Carrie described and was previously approved, and to change the address of that to the Ridgeview Drive. The parcels are currently zoned M1 manufacturing PUD, as Carrie described, and the old ordinance that's nearly 35 years old that we've been working with staff on to get through. So Truck Country wants to make a significant investment in the city and expand its operations at the new site, which could create more jobs and a higher land tax base. Approximately right now for the land only, it's about $6,800 for taxes, and we're anticipating obviously a multiple of that after a $1 million project is constructed. So as Carrie mentioned, tonight we're here as part of a multi-step approval process. We are going through the official map amendment, which we presented here. The certified survey map was already approved. And then tonight we're discussing our site plan. And while this is the first time we're formally presenting our site plan, the site plan has been a long time in the making, reviewed by many people, and the general concept of the site plan itself has not changed. I think Truck Country first met with staff last year, I think it was, and then back again in February to follow up and discuss the project. We had a neighborhood meeting a few weeks ago, held in connection with Alderman Guzikowski and the residents on South Judith Place to the south. We appreciated all the productive dialogue on that in the conversation, and further revise our site plan to address some of the concerns of the neighbors. You may recognize some of the revisions, but I'll let Chris highlight those here in a moment. And then as recently as yesterday, we had communications with staff to discuss the project to make sure everyone's on the same page. So I think we have a pretty productive dialogue on that. I think I'll want to address some of the use issues that Carrie brought up, but in the meantime, I think everyone's waiting to see more of the plan. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to our architect, Chris Johns.
Good evening. Christopher Johns, 333 East Chicago Street, representing Truck Country from Epstein Union Architects. We have some additional images that might have clarified some of the comments that had come up on the articulation of the building. Here is the office corner at the northeast corner of the building. Here you can see that we are using that metal panel as an accent product. It does have relief from the facade, the main facade. The burnish block is not through the entire base of the building. It is just where the metal panel comes down as it establishes a base of that. If you'd like to go to the next slide. This entrance has a canopy on it as well, and it's a little bit easier to see on this. This is your primary office entrance. This is the north facade of the building. Each one of the entrance that I guess we'll call it in the middle is the office entrance, the sales entrance. The entrance that is on the left-hand side would also be the sales entrance. The furthest right-hand entrance would be the service entrance for that location. If you could advance to the next, thank you. And then we have made some additional adjustments here following up from yesterday's meeting. We've brought up the corner, around the corner on the southeast side, just to give it a little bit more articulation facing the interstate, the primary frontage component of this site, and gives you some of the sense that it's not one plane. Excuse me. Can you advance the next slide, please? You're doing great, Jackie. Here's some renderings that we've put together for mature landscaping from the interstate. In this version, you can see the ramp. My eyes aren't as good as they used to be, so I'm going to lean forward this way, which would be pretty much right in the center of the screen. There's a red truck on the top of the ramp. You can see the hood of a vehicle that's from the set distance from the interstate in this image. If you go to the next slide, it's another version of the same type of thing. This is just further north on I-94, looking west. As the landscape matures, this is, I think, 5 years from install, I think is what the projected design was in this. These documents here are more technical drawings, but I wanted to have the grading plan so you can see where the berm is along the southern property line. You can see that as we get to the southwest corner, we were a little deeper in that from the edge of pavement to the property line as we got to the adjacent neighbors on Judith Place. We have now kept that in the same plane. We have a 64-foot distance from the property line to the back of curb, and we have berming in that area. In addition to that, when we did our lighting photometric, we made sure that we didn't have any light fixtures that were right in that corner, so it's a little bit darker corner in that. I think there's a photometric in a few slides. It might be the next one. It's the floor plan. You can't read that. That's too small. Yeah, but well, the photometric was going to be too hard to read. But we're at 0 at the property line. It meets the. The staff did have a comment about the color temperature, and we're amenable to the 35 K temperature for that. So that's an easy change. With that, I'd be happy to take some questions. There's the overall floor plan of that.
Okay. Before we go to the commission, I'm going to ask Mary, would you like to come up and get the ball rolling with your questions? And you got to come to the podium, man.
Also, Kaylee, she came in late. She lives right next to you.
Yeah, if she's got a comment, she can come up right after you, ma'am.
Okay, she's got her little paper here.
Okay. And then, Mary, just like on when you called in, name and address, please.
Mary Lavin, 10126 South Judith Place, Oak Creek, Wisconsin. First of all, I want to thank you for letting me speak. I want to thank Truck Country for taking the meeting into consideration and moving those parking spaces. That makes a huge difference. What I'm curious, I couldn't quite tell, is the burning staying the same? on the
It's
south?
a little lower as we go further down.
Right, and then it just disappears as you get,
Kind of grades away as it goes.
it's hard to tell.
As you go further west, it does taper down.
Taper down, and then it just completely
And then I
disappears.
think it disappears, yes.
Right.
That's part of the drainage path to get around the corner there.
That's what I understand. I know they say that they've set this up because of the way the drainage is, but I do have a bit of a difference of opinion about that. We appreciate them relocating those parking spaces. They were just 45 feet away from Kaylee's house. So now they've moved them, and now they got the same setback all the way across, but still the berm completely disappears. They have this beautiful berm on the southeast part of the property where nobody lives. It's just an open field in the interstate. And as they get closer to Judith Place where the houses are, there's no berm whatsoever. There's just going to be a few trees. And I know they say it's because of the drainage issue, but this piece of property is right between the Oak Creek watershed and the river watershed. There are a couple of different options for pooling and draining this piece of property. And I just want to say it would just be nice to have a bit more of a buffer between the industrial side and the residential side. I appreciate the work that you've done so far, and I really hope that we could get, I don't know, it's just a lot of, from what we got right now, it's a beautiful line of mature trees that blocks the noise, the odor, and the lights from the interstate. And when this comes in, they're going to wipe that all out and bring in a little bit of a berm and some shrubs. And we're still going to have a lot more noise, lights, and odors from truck country and from the interstate. It'd just be nice if somehow if you could continue the berm. I just wish that they could take a little better look at the drainage situation, and if you need some ideas or suggestions, I'm willing to talk. So, thank you for your time.
Okay, and I'll comment on that later on, Mary. Kaylee, would you like to come up? Yeah. Name and address, please.
Kaylee Kujak in 10108 South Judith Place. I am the direct neighbor of this development. And I have a question based on that picture. Is the fence going to be like literally right at the property line? I just speak because I like to see natural life, and I might sound nitpicky, but staring at a fence is like, trees would be better. So I don't know if it would save, time, money for them to shorten it closer and allow some trees on the other side just so I'm not sitting out having coffee on my weekend staring at a fence that isn't natural and not there and not the reason why I purchased the house that I have now. Basically, everything that Mary said was on my list of what I wanted to ask based on those pictures. I do want to thank them for moving away from my home, giving me a little more distance with my children. I'm going to have a baby and a 2-year-old playing in my backyard, and I just want them to have the best life. So I just want the city to really vouch for us and really understand that this is a big, big change for us, and it's really, really deeply affecting many of us. So thank you.
Great, thank you, Kaylee. Before I go to the commission, is there anybody else that might have came in late who would like to say anything? Come on up, sir. Yeah, but we'll need your name and address. You don't have to fill out the slip. Just name and address will do.
It's Wayne Majeski, 10220 South Judith Place, one of the neighbors and stuff. We talked about some of the parking and stuff. I know you guys switched around, but I see that second row there, that goes all the way down. Is there going to be like drive-through there? Because it looks like right now it's going to have to go through and then come back down. I mean, the headlight's going to be like shining right at her house and stuff because there's going to be no way, there's like no through over on the bottom end over there. For number one. Number two, we got all these businesses that go in, like Reinhardt. We put that big berm in over by Reinhardt for us. You got Amazon that went over there. They got a big berm over there with trees and stuff over there. Is there anything else we can maybe design a little bit better so it's a little bit more soundproof and more of a berm than what we have here?
Okay, we'll bring that up. Or try to answer it. Is that it? Okay, I will open it up to the commission, and along the way, we'll see if we can answer those questions. Christine, would you like to start us off?
Yes, so my comments would be, I agree with the resident, that's what I saw here. There is not enough buffers to separate between the resident and this manufacturer area. Couple of trees here and there are maybe aesthetically pleasing, but they're not still a buffer. You need something more to be like an obstacle from noise, lights, shining lights. Those are trucks, so it's not just regular vehicles, so they have different heights. So this is something needs to be considered in that landscaping plan. So that's what I would strongly recommend, to revise that, and maybe there are so many ways to address the drainage issues. Could be costly, but there are ways. That's all what I have for now.
Okay. Matt?
I'd just like to echo what the residents said as far as the landscaping along the south side, and what our staff has recommended and stated along the east side of the property as far as landscaping. I think, we've looked at a number of developments, not truck maintenance and sales, but of this style, whether it's industrial manufacturing, and we required extensive amount of landscaping along interstates, along county highways, along residential areas. So, they have improved it. They have increased it from previous submittals, which we do appreciate, but I think we might be able to go a little farther. As far as stormwater, we've discussed with them in regards to off-site water draining onto the property, which has always occurred, and how it's being handled. There's still some areas that need to be addressed, which we'll further discuss with them. I mean, as long as they continue to work with our environmental engineer, we can work through those issues. Lighting, we do appreciate you going down to 3,500. That does help a lot. We still would obviously encourage or require the shielding along the south side, which is not a big deal.
Yeah.
That would help the residents as far as the lights. That was a good catch by the resident as far as the parking coming down on the west side. Probably try to get a drive lane there, or being able to manage those trucks moving north and south on the west side of the parking lot. It appears that there's not a drive lane through there, so if we could address that.
Well, you can pull through, so it would be a pull through. The one lane that is inboard from the west is a single loaded trailer storage, so you can pull through those stalls.
Okay.
We previously had the similar layout. It was going to be a pull down situation.
I guess it just doesn't appear with the drive lane though. They're marked stalls on our screen.
Yeah, and they are, but you can pull through there would be some pulling down that drive as well.
Right. But I guess to address that is, if it's not marked, you can't park there. Or you wouldn't park or keep a stall there, or a truck or a trailer, which then would allow you to, maneuver south to the east or west to the north, and not have to, turn or do whatever. It's a small adjustment. You have 320 some stalls, I believe, for parking. Losing one or two is not going to kill the site, in my mind, or my determination, and what I've seen in the past. I think it's a small concession. Other than that, I'd like to listen to the rest of the commission and go from there, Mayor.
Okay, thank you, Matt. Dawn?
Yeah, I had the same questions I was going to ask about that being a dead end of, and not a drive-through lane. So my question was asked.
Okay. Chris?
Well, this is my district, and I do appreciate the progress we've made. I'm still not satisfied that we have listened 100% to what the neighbors are looking for. And we can't shine lights. We can't have the light pollution that's going to impact them immediately once you start clearing away there. So we have to look at ways to make a berm or whatever it is that'll put us sound heavy barrier and deadening the noise and sound. So, and again, give them some space so it's away from the houses. It's my 2 cents.
Carrie, could you put the landscape plan up, please? Because this is an accurate depiction of the landscape plan. I think it might be in the original the first presentation.
Hi, I'm Justin Johnson, JSD Professional Services, W238 and 1610 Bussey Road in Waukesha. Civil engineer, I've got my landscape architect, Kevin Byrne, here with me too. We can maybe answer a couple of the questions that were raised about the southwest corner of the property. I think the first question was about the berm and where it dies off, what the height is in that area. And basically what you see on the screen there at the southwest corner, moving from the corner easterly, we've got the fence, we've got about a 5-foot high berm from the pavement elevation of the truck parking to the top of the berm. And then the fence line runs along that top of berm. The landscaping, which is comprised of 38 Black Hills spruce and white pines, are on the resident side of that fence.
So the fence will sit on top of the berm?
The fence sits up on top of the berm, yes. On the truck country side of the berm, we have some ornamental type trees that will have a higher canopy and will fill in some of those gaps between the coniferous trees. So, that berm does, at some point, it has to taper down to meet existing grade, and it does that at that corner of the fence line, which you can kind of see where that fence line comes in on that drawing there. So there's about a 25 to 30 foot space where that berm is tapering down from 5 foot high down to 0 at the corner of the fence. We feel that between the landscaping and the berm itself, that will block the headlights of the trucks coming down that pathway. I think there could maybe be discussions of, most people don't like slats, but that fence could have slats in it too if that was an additional,
Yeah, we could talk about.
that.
More of a privacy fence. Slats are a maintenance issue, as we all know. But we could probably look at that with our client.
Right. But we do have very, very heavy landscaping through that area.
So basically, top of the fence will sit about 13 feet.
From the top of pavement.
From the top of pavement, yes.
From the top of pavement, or because you're going to put it on top of 5 foot berm and it's an 8 foot fence?
Yep, right, yeah. So the 5 plus the 8.
Okay.
I don't know if there were I can't remember if there were other questions regarding that particular part of the landscaping did I catch all of them?
I don't have a question, but, we need everybody.
You're going to have to.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Gotta be up on the microphone.
I'll
So,
Justin, if you want to.
Yeah.
So the fence, to answer one of your questions, the fence doesn't sit right on the property.
No, okay. So Kaylee Kujak again, 10108 South Judith Place, Oak Creek, Wisconsin, 53154.
Kaylee, you can pull the microphone down towards you. There you go.
Can you hear me now?
Yep. Thank you.
Okay. So Reinhardt, their berm is level the whole way. It doesn't start tapering until it makes a turn, and then it tapers down. And so I'm 5'2", so imagine 2 inches shorter than me being my sound light barrier. I don't know how that's going to work, but very sad to hear that. So, I understand this fence is now going to be on top of the berm, so I don't know how they could do a turn and then taper down to keep it level, whether they can move the fence somewhat, I don't know.
Kaylee, I can't answer that for you, but it really gets into environmental control of stormwater as they're doing this berm and how it goes.
Okay.
So I mean, that's above my pay grade to answer that question.
No.
But I did bring it up after the meeting. I did go into engineering and I talked, and I think it was Mary who brought up Judith Place. Part of it drains south and part of it drains north. It's just the topography of what's there now, and they want to keep that going. Somebody brought up a pipe. You know, we go with the bioswales. We keep it natural the way it is. So as Matt said, they'll continue to work on it. And it's a dead deal. And Matt would know better than I, but I kind of stated it at the meeting. We're going to this natural thing. So
yeah, I remember that.
And the height of the berm is also hindered by the property. So the higher the berm, the wider it is.
Right.
And they're a little bit hindered by that too as well.
No, and I understand, but you know, from a resident side, can't more sounds like I don't want to.
Agreed.
So.
And that's why I was curious. With I agree. I'm only 5 something too, so it ain't much taller than me.
My son's
but
really
if we
taller
do
than me.
put that fence on there, I do think we have to come to a workable solution to make it, you can't have lights coming through.
Yeah.
That's the bottom line.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. So that's all I have.
Okay.
Mayor, could I speak on this? I didn't sign up for it.
Yeah, come on up, sir.
My name is Rich Grams. I live at 980 West Canterbury Court, Oak Creek. I think they're not knowing what they're in for. They put FedEx by me. It's got to be a half a mile away. The lights are in my backyard, which I used to have a beautiful yard. The city actually dropped my taxes 5% because of them lights. I now have beep, 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 crash, 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 and racing engines on big trucks. Sound travels. I don't know how far they got to get away or how many big berms you can have. It's going to be a nightmare for them.
Gotcha. Thank you for the comments. Appreciate that. Okay. Chris, I think you still actually have the floor.
No, that pretty much covered it.
Okay, Don?
So back to that south side, so southwest side in particular. So you got the berm, you got the fence on the berm. Now I know in other plans that have come through here, we've seen trees on top of a berm. That, I don't know if that's been considered. That would push the fence hopefully back towards the property a little bit. Give them, you put in the big, maybe pine trees or something that would help block light. And then you're also not looking at the fence, you're looking at pine trees instead. I don't know if that was ever talked about, considered. I know we did have one plan that actually did that. They put the trees right on the berm. And if you put them thick enough, it could really, I don't know, can't tell you how much it's gonna block sound or light, but something good to look at, some nice screening, and then you have the fence inside. I don't know, I find it kind of curious that the fence and then all the nice trees are on the inside where the bunch of trucks will be looking at them. I'd rather see the trees on the outside of the fence where the neighbors would be looking at them. So
I think they did, I think they stated that. And they got spruce. I think they said black pine, white pine.
So the trees are on the berm?
Yes.
But they said the trees and fence are on the berm?
The fence is right on the top of the berm and the trees are either side of it.
It's a 65.
Okay. Okay, all right, thank you. I guess I misunderstood. And then other than that, yeah, hopefully the city can do their best in all options on the drainage situation. I just, don't want to beat that horse. And that's all I got.
Okay. Fred?
Yeah, I have a question. I'm concerned about the access by the utility to get to their easement. Is there any problem they're gonna have to get to the easement on the southwest side?
Well, we're starting to get competing interests, and so.
Excuse me.
Would like,
Your mic isn't up.
have them both on.
There you go.
We're getting to the realm of competing interests. The utility wants to have access down their easement. We're trying to screen the people who live next door every day. So perhaps we need to work with the utility to not have the access from the end of Judith Place. Maybe there's an opportunity where they could come through Truck Country's property. I don't know. I need to review that with my client. But in order to have, their current, in order to accommodate their access, which was a gravel drive down the end of Edith's Place, which Truck Country's not a fan of because it also creates other interests of people driving down that aren't part of the utility.
You also need water though. And access to it if you don't have that, and they want to put a loop in that to help that flow of the water.
Yeah, the utility, the easement is already in place. So if we need to work on the easement path, that's one piece, but.
Have you been working with the utility lately?
We've talked to them initially, but we're still working on a lot of other issues. That seems to be, in our opinion, an easier thing to solve, the access component.
Okay. But it is a concern of the utilities.
Okay, I guess that leaves me. So I kind of did speak up a little bit. Again, I think the drainage still has to be worked on. Obviously, we have some landscape problems to the south that we're looking at. But we also have to discuss to the east what we consider right away, and Carrie got into the setbacks of I-94. The screening kind of fell apart in front of the truck ramp, and I don't exactly know where we're at with the truck ramp either. So, I mean, that becomes a consideration that's in here as well. In that picture, if you go back one, Carrie. Man, I don't like that look. Sorry, I don't know how to say that. That really looks messy. And I'd hate to see that as one of our first businesses you see coming in Oak Creek. I think we could do better than that, and we should do better than that. We could and we should. The building itself, I hope that ain't, you guys said you got a different rendering of it, maybe. I'm a little surprised that there isn't more glazing to the front where the sails are. You actually, in my opinion, a better looking building on 20th than what you have here for sales. A little underwhelmed with that. So I think there's some work to do. And again, I think staff's been working with you, but I don't like to try to engineer anything on the fly or try to correct it here. I don't think that's the proper place to do the business or with the proper people. So I would prefer to hold this. Doug?
Yeah, if I may, Doug Seymour, I'm the planning director. And I just want to say that I appreciate the opportunity to discuss the site plan with the commission, with the neighbors, with Truck Country. As, to be quite honest, there hasn't been complete consensus as to kind of the rules of engagement and what actually applies given the two different ordinances that apply, the zoning code versus the PUD. Nonetheless, I mean, in 1294, and I know Carrie included it as part of your packet, just to boil it down, it says the following uses are permitted. And it lists probably 7 or 8 or 9 uses in there. And truck sales and service are not listed, nor is outdoor display. So the remedy back in 1987 was, okay, if the use is not listed, the plan commission can approve such a use. So it's kind of a little bit of a wrinkle. Right now, for instance, today, under our existing and new zoning code, we wouldn't necessarily have that language. We'd require conditional use permits. But that was in place in 1987, remains in place as part of that planning and development. So in any case, at least the plan commission will need to approve those uses, and that probably shouldn't happen tonight. We probably want to agendize that as a separate item for a future meeting. And with the approval of the site plan to be either at that same meeting or to follow that,
But again, the discussion is helpful in the sense that it helps to frame staff's discussions with Truck Country. It helps to frame how we proceed in terms of how the commission or the council, if this commission so chooses, approves those uses. And I think we talked about a lot of things, the berming and buffering on the south side. Certainly, we want to make sure that that mitigates as much as possible the impacts of this development on that neighborhood. But the thing that probably has been focused on much, and thank you, Mayor, for bringing that up, is the way this presents to the freeway. I mean, in our mind, as part of our new comprehensive plan, we treat business, excuse me, I mean, business parks are treated a little bit differently than they were in 1960s when South Branch went in. And you know, we'll be the first to admit that some of the stuff in South Branch isn't the best looking. But I think that rather than kind of trying to just surpass that low bar that exists in some of the architecture in South Branch, we should be aiming for a little bit higher bar, like some of the buildings that we've been approving, the Frontline building, for example, which paid considerable attention to that elevation along the freeway in terms of both building and landscaping. And some of the newer buildings that we see are much more attuned to four-sided architecture and certainly in landscaping. So these are the things that we'll continue our discussions with the applicants about. But again, thank the commission for openly discussing some of these items and giving staff the direction as far as how we should proceed with this.
Thank you for that narrative, Doug. And again, this isn't to beat up on the applicants or beat up on the neighborhood. This is really to find a happy median that we can all live with. And this is really the time to do it, not after the fact. And of course, be as transparent as we possibly can. And that's why we're here. And I want to thank you guys for having the meeting the other week. It was very helpful and the turnout was great from the neighborhood. And the neighbors were really respectful and they really put their 2 cents worth in. I do appreciate that. And as Doug said, things have changed. The building codes have changed, the building materials have changed over the years, and it's apparent in the apartments, and we take a lot of flack because we approve some apartments. Things that you see here in Drexeltown Square look far different than things that were built in the 80s. But keep in mind, every time the bar gets raised at Drexeltown Square on the design and the amenities, the other older apartments have to spruce up and fix up to keep up with the Joneses, so to speak, to keep those tenants where they're at. So the same holds true right in a business park. Even though we have some aged business parks, I think Doug was right on to say we don't have to match what's there. We should exceed it and set a new bar for it. So with that, I would look to hold this in a motion. So if there's any further discussion, no? Okay, we'll look for a motion.
Guzikowski makes a motion to hold site building and related plan review for the proposed truck sales and service development until future meeting, or is there a meeting date, Gary?
See, it's not him.
The Plan Commission can either set a date and time certain, meaning the next meeting, which is May 25th, or you can hold it open for staff and the applicants to bring it back at a later date, have a couple extra weeks to work on the issues that have been raised tonight. So either May 25th or just a later date.
Are we better off keeping an open window on that date, depending on how quickly you can work with the applicant and staff, than to premeditate the 25th?
Yes.
Yes, that's what I was going to move. So Guzikowski makes a motion to hold the site building and related plan review for proposed truck sales and service development until a future meeting date.
Hannah seconds.
Roll call, starting with Sullivan.
Sullivan, aye.
Perillo, aye.
Kavich, aye.
Guzikowski, aye.
Ladani, aye.
Secret, aye.
Hannah, aye.
Thank you. Appreciate it all. Okay, on to item, what's my agenda? 6B, plan review. Site and building review plans for Migrant Living Trust, Imagine Development Associates for the multi-tenant industrial building for the property at 10501 South Parkway, Oakview Parkway, excuse me. Carrie, when you are ready, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So the current zoning of the property is M1 PUD. This is part of Oakview Business Park. The proposal is for a multi-tenant industrial building. There is another square footage addendum from what was released in the packet. We did receive some updated information. The square footage of the building is 109,077 feet. This building can accommodate up to 3 tenants, with Migrant Glass being the primary tenant of the building. On the screen right now is the proposed site plan for the site. Setbacks and dimensional requirements are met for the building. We do have 2 access points on the north and south. On the north will be access to the passenger vehicles, parking stalls, and there's also passenger vehicle parking stalls on the east. The southern access point will be primarily for trucks, as that's where the docks are. Plan commissioners may note that there is a change to the plans. They are on your seating positions right now from what was included in the packets previously. That does include a change to the 5 parking stalls that are south of the office area. The orientation was rotated such that there's a sliding kind of pickup door on the south side there. So the orientation of the stalls were kind of adjusted so that customer pickup could be more easily coordinated in that space. Total parking includes 71 parking stalls, again on the northeast and southeast of the building. 20 loading docks are located on the south side of the building, and that will call door is on the southeast side. Plan commissioners will also note that there is a separate area on the southeast, the very southeast of the property, for 11 trailer parking stalls. There are no dimensions that we can find for these proposed stalls, so we will also discuss that in terms of accurate screening. The loading docks, speaking of screening, are proposed to be screened by a 10 by 60 precast wall. That's additional information from what was included in your packets. Minimum parking requirements for warehousing operations are listed as 1 for every 5,000 square feet plus 1 for every employee. Same for general manufacturing and processing and fabrication operations. That's 1 stall for every peak shift employee. We do not have specifics for the 2 tenant spaces, obviously. Migrant Glass is estimating that they would have 20 to 30 staff at any one time. Up to 60 are anticipated at this point, although with operations for the individual tenant needs, that may change. Same with expected operations. Migrant Glass are proposed to operate between 7 a.m. and 10 p.m., but their tenants may have different operating requirements. So based on the absolute maximum number of employees that are anticipated, which is 60, plus the square footage of the building, we do show that 82 parking stalls would be required. However, it's difficult to determine exactly what those needs are going to be without knowing what the tenants are and knowing what those shifts are. Specifically for Migrant Glass, there are plenty of parking stalls, but again, it'll be up to the landowner or their management company to ensure that there are adequate parking stalls and that that operation is managed properly. Turning now to the landscape plan, we're going to talk about it in sections. This is what is proposed on the north side. This would be screening the parking stalls from the north, which is the Greco facility. You will note that there is a requirement in code for there to be a minimum 3-foot wide perimeter landscape area between the entry elevation and the parking for the building. What is proposed here is mostly just sod, except for that northeast corner. So staff is recommending that additional plantings be incorporated into those areas, especially for those 2 tenant entries, which is right now proposed to just be grass. We did receive some very late comments this afternoon from the current owner of the property, which is West Park. There are some concerns about the size of the trees that are proposed on the north, so we'll continue to work with the applicant to make sure that what is being proposed has the adequate space for maturity so that those trees are maintained properly. Turning now to landscaping on the east, the main concern here is that we have adequate landscaping for screening of those parking stalls outside of the utility easement. And this does show that those planting areas are outside of the utility easement. So while this is a little bit convoluted, it just breaks up that east island into kind of the north portion and the south portion. Turning now to the south corner of the building, they've adjusted that landscape island to provide those plantings for the reorientation of those 5 parking stalls on the south. And then the trailer parking stalls. The trailer parking stalls are proposed to be enclosed with a fence that is similar to the depiction on the screen. That fence is proposed to be 6 feet tall, no berm, and then the landscaping is proposed around it to aid in screening, but staff's concerns are that aside from the trees that are proposed, in between they're proposing plantings that are being installed at a height of 36 inches, which would not adequately screen that area. So staff's recommendation is that there would be further consideration for either an opaque fence or a screen wall similar to what's being used for the loading dock, or increasing the landscaping, or removing the trailer parking stalls altogether. Turning now to the building itself. On the screen right now is the proposed floor plan. You'll notice that there are 2 tenant spaces again with migrant glass. There's a portion that is office space, and the majority is going to be warehouse. On the north, you'll notice that it says electrical room and fire pump room. That's actually been incorporated into the elevation design. So we'll take a look at that next. And you'll see that the tenant spaces are identified with glass, with canopies, with some articulation of the building, changes in color and materials, and also the entries themselves. The fire room, the pump room, is actually this white bump out that's kind of in the center of the building, if you will. This is what the southeast corner for migrant glass is going to be. That's where their office location is located. A little bit redundant there, sorry. The elevation on the south, this is where the loading docks are. The customer pickup door is on the far east, but then the screen wall is immediately to the west of that. So these loading docks are not going to be seen from the street.
Is that a block wall, Carrie?
It's a concrete panel.
Oh, it's concrete panel.
Yes, so it'll match the building.
Thank you.
And then again, proposed elevation on the west, that holding the corner for that tenant on the northwest with the same kind of treatment as will be on the southeast and on the northeast. The proposed materials are on the screen right now. We have painted concrete tilt panels in 2 different colors, unpainted board-formed textured concrete tilt panels in gray, unpainted fluted rib textured concrete panels. Basically, you have concrete panels in a couple of different textures to provide some variety to the building. And then metal panel accents at the entrances and corners. Again, windows on all elevations with the majority at those corner entries. With some parapets to distinguish those tenant spaces. Those parapets will also provide some screening for any rooftop mechanical units. And again, anything that is not going to be screened by the roof will be required to be screened with elements that would be approved either by the Plan Commission or by the Department of Community Development. Also on the screen is the proposed dumpster enclosure, which will have walls that are, concrete to match the building. These won't really be seen either. It's on the southwest corner of the building, but it's also going to be surrounded by a retaining wall. So that won't be seen by the street, and it really will be screened pretty well from the west as well. Renderings on the screen showing what these, the southern corner will look like. And with that in mind, there is a suggested motion for approval on the screen. Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Carrie. Applicant, would you got a few words to say before we start?
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Rizal Iskandarsa, Rizal Iskandar with JSD Professional Services, West 22 North 1610 Bussy Road in Waukesha. First of all, thank you, Carrie, for your presentation. And I'm here with Eric Newman with MSI. The ownership group just would like to officially or unofficially apologize not being able to be here. We advised them that this was going to be online, so and they didn't have enough time to. They're in Utah, so they didn't have enough time to fly over. So they just
understood.
They apologize not being able to be here in person.
One meeting too late.
Yeah. But I think what Kerry presented is pretty straightforward, and we'll work with the staff and regarding all their comments. There's one comment regarding the southeast truck trailer area. We're most likely the truck area is going to get smaller, because we're sort of short on green space. We had to add while working with Chief Havey, we had to add a turnaround on the northwest corner. So that additional pavement will end up, that T turnaround for his fire truck that we had to add there. So now we're above the 20% green space requirement. So we'll end up losing some pavement in that auxiliary trailer area, and we'll take advantage of that by adding berming and heavier planting for screening.
Okay. Yeah, I noticed Chief Havey isn't here tonight. We must have.
Oh,
yes, you are back there. Holy cow. There were so many people back here, Mike, and you're all a 5-something too, like me, so it's.
I'm one of the 5-footers. Good evening, Mayor and Commission. Mike Havey, Assistant Chief of Fire. So we have worked with the developer to accommodate for the turnaround, because initially it was a full pass-through road for emergency access, but we were able to accommodate with the turnaround. And engineering was able to confirm with the turning template that it would meet our requirements.
Okay. As long as you're here, I was going to ask about the pump room. Any concerns going on there?
No, as our FDC or fire department connection is close in proximity to the fire pump room, so that is not a concern for us.
Okay. Great, thank you.
Okay, thanks.
I'm sorry. Continue on.
I think, I don't have anything to add. Eric, no, we'll answer any questions.
Okay, great. Let's go to commission. Fred, you want to start on your end this time? You ready?
I don't have any questions at this time.
Okay. If you got to come back, let us know. Don?
No questions.
Chris?
No questions.
Your mic's not on.
A nice looking building, and looking forward to have 71 more people employed. So that's great.
Cool. Don?
No questions for me.
Matt?
I have one question or comment. I know, and this is probably something we probably should have brought up a little earlier out of engineering. I know there's been questions on the north entrance with Greco. As it's laid out, it seems to work. Has there been any considerations, and I just brought this up by looking at an aerial and on the drawing, has there been or could there be some consideration to move it to the south to match with the driveway that's on the east side of Oakview? Just a quick thought there, could make it more of an intersection
it'd be in kind of the middle of the building. I don't know if you could take that back to your client or engineering wise and look at it. That would eliminate some of the issues with that shared entrance kind of, so to speak, up by Greco property on the north.
Yeah, Matt. Yeah, we can look at that. I think the one item is the we had a direct fire truck access on the north, so it would just a straight, straight west, and then make that T, turn around, come around. Well, I mean, if we do move it south, we'll just have to make sure that the fire truck can make that right turn.
I think if there's reason behind it in the terms of fire protection and access, then that's acceptable by engineering.
Okay.
I just kind of looking at it, overview with the new drawings and that, and just an idea. But if the purpose of that driveway there is for ease of fire access.
We'll take a look at that. We also need to, there's a little portion of that curb turnaround that's going to be in that Greco's property.
Yeah.
We'll need to have a discussion with them and have some sort of easement agreement.
Yeah.
So
I mean, if you could work it to where you eliminate that, it could eliminate a few things for you. But other than that, our stormwater questions or anything along those lines have all been answered by Riz and his group. So engineering is satisfied with the drawings as they are.
Okay, thank you, Matt. Christine?
I have no question, just comments of what Carrie had brought up from the landscaping aside of the fence. So if the trailers are gonna remain, so definitely we wanna screen them more. And if it's not gonna, we just need to address it. So I don't know, Carrie, how is this gonna move or get worked out in the motion?
Since that area is going to be changing, the Plan Commission has the discretion to either require the landscape plans to come back for Plan Commission review and approval, or you can defer to staff.
Okay.
Okay.
So how do you guys want to address that?
Yeah, we can discuss that, because actually you read my mind. That was my question.
Okay.
On 4, how to best handle that. As a group, do we want to see it or do we want to defer to staff?
I would defer to Carrie. She knows. She's the one who brought it up, so.
I would think they have it in mind what they want, and if they get it right there, I don't see us overturning it here. Not that we haven't done that in the past, but I do have faith in our staff to handle these things and not bring the applicant back that way. So, other than that, I guess we're okay. I don't have any questions. I agree. It's a nice looking building. So, with that motion then, and do we have to make the comment about deferring to staff? No? Okay.
Guzikowski makes a motion the Plan Commission approves the site and building plan submitted by Jeremy Jensen, the Migrant Living Trust, and the Imagine Development Associates for the property at 10501 South Oakview Parkway with the following conditions. 1, that all relevant code requirements are in effect. 2, that all plans are revised to include details for the proposed screen wall, fence, and all parking stall dimensions. 3, that the plans are revised to include locations for all mechanicals, transformers, and utilities. All mechanical equipment, transformers, and utility boxes, ground, building, and rooftop shall be screened from view. 4, that the landscape plans are revised to ensure all trees are planted outside of the utility easements and to address staff comments regarding the trailer parking areas. 5, that the detailed master sign plan is reviewed and approved by the Plan Commission prior to submission of sign permit application. And 6, that all detailed revised plans are submitted in digital format to the Department of Community Development prior to the submission of permit applications.
Seifert seconds.
Roll call, starting with Carrillo.
Carrillo, aye.
Kavich, aye.
Guzikowski, aye.
Holdani, aye.
Seifert, aye.
Hannah, aye.
Sullivan, aye.
Thank you all. Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.
Very much.
That will get us to item 6C, consideration of a conditional use permit. This is for John Schleter on behalf of Carvana for an amendment to the existing conditional use permit to allow 24-hour operations on the property at 561 West College. Carrie? Oh, wait a minute. Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
You're next. I got notes.
So the current zoning of the property is M1. It does have an existing conditional use permit. It does cover the Carvana operations, and that's why we're here to discuss this evening. That conditional use permit for Carvana was approved in February of 2020, and it did limit the hours of operation. So they are asking for 24/7 operations for a limited area on the west. As you can see on the screen here, this is what their current operations are. But this is what's also limited by the existing hours of operation. What they want to have for 24/7 operations is the loading and unloading of vehicles in these specific spots. The yellow is actually just notating where the access is going to be, and the two red areas are where the loading areas are proposed to be for those 24/7 operations. So if you turn to page 2 of 7, of the conditions and restrictions. Section 3A, delivery of vehicles for sale for the Carvana operation may occur 24 hours per day, 7 days per week, restricted to the areas identified on Exhibit A, which is on the screen. Deliveries in all other areas per Exhibit B, which is included in the conditions and restrictions, shall occur between the hours of 7 a.m. and 8 p.m. There are no additional changes or modifications to the conditions and restrictions as part of this request. And there is a suggested motion for approval on the screen. Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Carrie. Is the applicant with us at all? Oh, please put him on then.
Good afternoon, Mr. Mayor.
Afternoon or evening. I don't know which it is.
Good evening is probably more proper. Yes, I'm here on behalf of Carvana.
Name and address, please.
Oh, my apology. John Schleter, 7265 South 1st Street in Oak Creek. I'm here tonight representing Carvana. They have had wonderful growth at their property, and it is very challenging to get delivery of vehicles during the hours that were specified. With traffic coming up from Chicago and other areas, and they've had delivery vehicles waiting on College Avenue, sometimes for 12 or more hours, waiting for the hours of operation to open up. We do want to be considerate of the houses that are to the west, to the east, about 400 feet or so, and that's why we limited the unloading areas to the far western portion of the property. The property is located on a county highway, and there is actually a trucking terminal less than a half a mile from this location. So it is a heavy use area. I think in comparison, the trucks that would just have cars being driven off of the auto rack in comparison to other uses at the area would be very limited. I'm here to answer any questions.
John, you're going to have to kind of speak up. You're fading out.
Oh, I'm sorry. If you have any additional questions, I'm happy to answer any questions you might have.
Okay, thank you, John. before we go to the commission, there's one person wishing to speak and one that would like their submission read into record. So I will read that one first. It's from Dave Kazmatka, 531 West College Avenue. His comments are garbage trucks parking next to the fence by the house, car haulers all hours of the night and weekends. I get 3 hours of sleep. I get 3 hours a night of sleep. Half is with my wife because of cancer. The other half is with the next door. So sorry to hear that, Dave. And then, oh, that's 5E. I have one more. Keen, you wish to speak. Want to come on up, please? And name and address.
Keen Keyhole, 513 West College Avenue. It's been an ongoing issue with Carvana and Enterprise. You guys see me before. They're 24/7. They've been right from day one. There is nobody waiting on College Avenue to unload trucks. They're going out both entrances. They're unloading sometimes in the street. On both sides, they're still doing what they're always doing. Major garbage problem, front and backyards. They can't even close the garbage dumpsters lids to keep the garbage contained. They finally did clean up and back and cut some of the weeds down, which I seen the guy took 2 pickup trucks full of garbage from about accumulation about 5 years from Enterprise and Carvana. 24/7, they're doing it now. I don't see how this is going to make our problems go away. It's just going to make it worse.
Just off the top of my head, it going to the west and in the parking lot puts some additional footage between you for sure and gets them off the road. So just off the road's an improvement.
Well, the thing is, they're not going out the same entrance that they're coming in because of the layout of the turnaround. So they go next to Dave's house out. And with those loading ramps, they ride really low. It almost sounds like someone dropping garbage cans off a curb at all hours of the night. It wakes me up, and I'm 2 doors over. So I can imagine how bad it is for Dave and his wife.
Okay.
There is no limit on hours. I've called and complained, but nothing ever gets resolved.
I know we've talked about this the last time through. It started out Enterprise and then it switched. And we've been around this. So, I mean, again, our option was the police because that's why our ordinance are there. So hopefully the police have paid them a visit and
nothing gets accomplished. I was actually surprised that they picked up garbage a couple of weeks ago, but it was probably just to prepare for this meeting. That's probably the only reason they did it.
Well, we're working on that as well with a compliance officer on businesses and things like that. Hopefully this summer we'll have that person in place.
It's worse in the summer because then the windows are open. And there's been times last summer that I actually closed the windows trying to get a good night's sleep. But it's still, they bang the car ramps and there's constant car horns and alarms going off. I listen to it all day long and I listen to it all night long. So I don't know how this is going to resolve any of our issues. I think it's just going to make it worse.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate it. Okay, anyone else? Not, let's start with Christine. Oh, I'm sorry, Lori, I didn't mean to.
No, that's okay.
Edge you out here. Go ahead.
Just to also give a little background, I've been working very closely with Officer Haggerty with the Oak Creek Police Department on this issue. Since we spoke to Mr. Kehoe, I believe a year and a half ago when Carvana came to our city. Officer Haggerty has been called out several occasions. She's only been able to make contact with one driver. And after that instance, we were able to work with Carvana to determine how the situation kept occurring. And they quickly addressed the issue and said that they were going to stop driving from Indiana at the time that they left so that they would arrive during the actual hours of operation. Sadly, though, a few months later, we found out that deliveries were still occurring in the evening. And what was actually happening, Officer Haggerty gave me the contact information for Casey Jewell, who is the manager for Carvana, and we, through conversation, discovered that they had a tow truck company that had been dropping off vehicles in the middle of the night on College Ave and driving them onto the property to try to avoid the hours of operation. As soon as we had the conversation, they immediately stopped within a few days. I'm a little surprised by Mr. Kehoe's comments because we have emails from him saying that it had stopped. And we also have not been receiving any complaints about the issue. But what we have been getting continuous complaints about is occasional pieces of garbage, although Officer Haggerty has only been able to confirm that once. So I believe that working through John Schluter and Casey Jewell, we have taken care of those situations.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate that. Christine?
No questions.
Matt?
No questions.
Dawn?
Well, I mean, I definitely feel for you. I live in Drexel Town Square, and sometimes those deliveries in the middle of the night really wake you up. And if we're doing so much to, with these other, the last people that were on the docket, putting berms in and things like that, what can we do to ensure that they're, now if we say 24 hours, we're opening it up for just to be, continued issues.
Slightly different situation in the sense that we have manufacturing against manufacturing, meaning the zoning for this area is all M1. Fully understand and respect the fact that we do have existing residential components of these properties. However, they're allowed to operate as a manufacturing district. The enterprise location has been in existence for quite a few years. Prior to this, it was DTG, so Dollar Thrifty. They put up a fence, they put up landscaping. At this point, if we were to say that they needed to put up a berm, that's not feasible.
Yeah, that's all.
My comment, yep.
Okay. Chris?
No comment.
Don?
My instinct to say is this is a bad idea. Pulling out all the stops to when they can deliver is really not a solution in my mind. The only thing it helps is the applicant, with all due respect, it helps him with scheduling. I think it would be naive to think that at 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock in the morning, they're going to use these two little red areas. I'm very skeptical, to say the least, that's how it's going to go down. All I can say is I'm really not in favor with just like giving them the go-ahead to just operate around the clock. That's about all I can say about it.
Okay. Fred?
Yeah, I kind of agree with Don. That operating at 3, 4 in the morning is just a little on the heavy side for the neighbors. If you could control the noise, it would be one thing, but it appears right now that we have no control over that. So I'm not totally in favor of this.
Okay. I guess I'll throw my 2 cents in. I like the fact that they're trying to regulate it to the west side of the property and try to put some distance back there. And I do appreciate his point. I'm sure those truck trailers are noisy. They're noisy when you drive by them. So I totally get that. Is there any way to segregate the east driveway so they can't use it, so they have to come in completely on the west side? Come in and exit on the west side for starters. Stay away from Dave. I can't remember your last name. Dave's at home. So, Kosmatka, Mr. Kosmatka's house.
Mr. Mayor, I would ask if Mr. Schluter could confirm this, but I believe that there is an existing fence through the parking lot that's supposed to separate the Carvana operation from the enterprise operation, so that Carvana actually cannot go through the enterprise location to exit out that east driveway.
Fences in the back.
John, can you confirm that? Is there a gated fence back there that they couldn't exit on the east? And the parking lot's split by a fence? Sounds familiar, actually.
It's split in the back, but that means that they would have to circulate in the west portion of that parking lot, go out to the front, and they could still go out that east driveway, but they wouldn't be driving along the full length of the east property line.
Can you hear me?
Yes, Mr. Schluter, if you could address that, please.
Absolutely. It is currently divided in the rear. However, I am happy to also divide it in the front of the property, so they would be forced to use the exit on the entrance and exit on the west.
Okay. That helps somewhat. Hours of operation. Again, seems to be a sticking point with some of the commissioners, and I don't disagree with them. I mean, it's complete scheduling for them on 24-hour basis. Is there any give on that? From Carvana?
I have spoken with Carvana at length, and 24/7 access is what they're seeking. They were actually a couple of months ago looking for a new site to replace this one because of the access issues, and it's what they look for at all of their locations. It was my hope, based upon the zoning not only of this property but the neighboring property and also the neighboring uses, a rock crushing facility across the street, the truck terminal just north on 6th Street, and also all the truck terminals on Howell Avenue and College Avenue that utilize county highway, the county highway, which is College Avenue. I do think this use is actually a comparatively light use when looking at even the mechanic's garage that has a residence on it right next door.
Okay. Approximately how many deliveries a week, a day? Do you know that, John?
I do not have that information. I'm sorry.
I suppose it depends on sales. So that probably varies week to week, month to month. Okay. No, I get it. It's M1. I understand. I've worked in a lot of M1 situations, and the zoning is there for it. It's just kind of an odd duck. Again, I do think it's an improvement if we can segregate out the west side from the east side to keep those trucks where they should be.
And I would be happy to make that a condition of this, that not only the rear but also the front. The front would have a fence so that they need to enter and exit through that western drive. They will not be able to access the eastern drive.
Go ahead, Don.
A question for the applicant. When these deliveries are made, is this the same group of, where are they coming from exactly? Is it the same group of drivers? Could it be coming from different sources all the time, different drivers, different companies, tow trucks? What's the consistency on who's dropping these off?
It does vary somewhat, but it can vary, but it's often a similar, it's the same company, but the drivers can vary somewhat. If you're asking about how they would know the location of the drop-off zone, I've considered it already, and a sign was or is going up to show the areas for drop-off after hours. And I would be happy to make that a condition, that sign would go up, showing them the area for unloading, and make that a condition of this application as well.
Right, and yeah, that was my implication. You know, drivers of all sorts, I think that's a high turnover profession. When they're, you know, a lot of times drivers are being paid on time, and signs don't necessarily mean everything. And
There's signs there now.
and if that's true, then, you know, yeah, there's a proof right there. But I guess the in and out is just part of it. When you're unloading, it is a very noisy process. If you've ever heard those chains slap on the bed of a truck, 400 feet, 600 feet, 1,000 feet, it doesn't matter. It'll wake the whole neighborhood up. And to give carte blanche on to any time they can come in and do this, again, I just can't get behind it. You know, my opinion, but I guess that's what I'm here for.
Okay.
One of the,
Go ahead, Chris.
just one of the challenges you have here is that you have the commercial business, you know, button up to residential, and that's what the challenge you got right now. And how do you make, you know, some coexist together? And I don't know, doesn't sound like you're in favor of the 24/7. It seems like if they're using the same freight company to deliver cars, that they certainly would have some influence on what they could tell their drivers and how they have to respect the neighbors when they would be in the area if they're using the same freight and drivers all the time. It just seems like we could, you know, request that.
There's so many different ones.
Sorry, sir, you gotta either be on the mic or you can't speak from back row. Anyone else? Any other questions, comments? Matt?
Yeah, I have, I guess, a question or a comment. Noise, obviously, is a concern. Is there any way we could require them to, when they unload, and I know this is probably not going to work, obviously because of the drivers, but one thought would be unloading only on the side of the building where they have that one location shown on the red.
The first location.
So it'd be on the west, it'd be on the west side of the building to maybe utilize the building itself as some kind of a noise barrier. I mean, it's a brick building that's, what, 15 feet tall, 20 feet tall?
You know,
just a thought. I mean, and I do understand the concerns that everyone has.
Yeah.
So
No,
I'm
I
just trying to, if it's on the fence and people are going one way or the other, it's just another thought.
You know, I get it. They're coming from all over, traffic, weather, accidents. A lot of things hold it up and make it tough to pinpoint a time. And you really can't expect a guy to pull up at 10:15 and then wait till 6 the next morning to get stuff in.
Do we have this anywhere else in the city where we allow 24/7 operations of delivery?
For M1 districts, we don't restrict it. We have distribution companies all over in M1 districts. In fact, in Oakview Business Park, we have several distributors that are 24/7.
Okay, thank you.
You know, Matt, I know it sounds goofy, but every little bit helps. That's not a bad idea. To try to keep it at that first building site and then drive the cars back to the back lot.
Mm-hmm.
You know, to Carrie's point, it is an M1 district, and you know, it's kind of there, and it's kind of been there. So it really stinks.
I mean, as part of a conditional use permit, the Plan Commission does have the authority to add conditions that are specific to this site. But if we're talking about, are there any other types of operations that we allow 24/7 operations? Yes, we do, and they are in M1 districts.
Yeah, FedEx is one of them. for an example. Yes.
King Keogh, 513 West College. There's actually a ordinance in the city of Oak Creek for car haulers. I thought I had the code with me. I could probably look it up and find it again. About having certain hours of delivery. And that's one of the things I was trying to stress, but no one seems to really do anything about it.
And what is it? Do you have it with you? What is it?
I don't have the specific code, but there is a code.
Lori?
I do know the code that he's speaking of, and I apologize, I don't know it off the top of my head, the number of it. But that code that he is referencing has to do with a commercial district and not a manufacturing district.
Okay.
So that would be the difference in it.
Yeah, I know, I get it. You know, we just strive for consistency in our M1s, and
There's signs already on front saying that delivery times are these hours. They don't read the
we got
signs.
signs telling trucks not to go down roads, and I get calls, I know. Signs-
One of the biggest issues is the car alarms going off, because I do have a car lot that people drop cars off. I wake up in the middle of the night thinking that someone may break into a customer's car, so I gotta look out my window, okay, it's Carvana. You know, it's bad all the way around.
I getcha. I getcha. So. All right, commissioners. Again, I hate to be inconsistent. You know, I mean, we do have some M1s where it's a similar situation. And the homes are M1 as well, correct? Just is it non-conforming? That they have a residency with?
There's history with the approvals for those properties that were allowed to have operations and residence.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
back in the day.
Yeah.
The 80s, you had to love it, you know. Christine, anything? Looks like you want to say something. I can't really tell.
Thank you, Carrie. I understand we want consistency between all the M1 businesses, but again, at the end of the day, every situation, every location is different, so we cannot just treat them all blindly the same. So they're already operating 24/7, whether we allow it or not. So at least we don't give them the legal, per se, that they can still go ahead and do so. So that will be my little take on this.
Okay. Go ahead.
Mayor, maybe just looking to add something in that's going to.
We could look at modified hours, but go ahead.
It's not a solution, but just in all fairness, the applicant and I have been working with Milwaukee County. The city owns the property, that kind of wooded area just west of the building. So we require it through Milwaukee County with some conditions upon the property that be used for roadway purposes, and that lines up with 6th Street, and presumably that was when 6th Street was going to go through. We have been trying for months to get a response back from the county on whether or not they would waive that restriction in order that property might be available, presumably by this property owner, which might be able to solve some of those problems. You know, this doesn't help us tonight, but I just thought that might be a bit of information that the commission may want to be aware of.
Go ahead, Christine.
So question, isn't 6th Street a local road?
It is, actually. Yes, it is, and actually there is no 6th Street in that location in the city of Oak Creek.
Yeah.
But at one point in time, that was supposed to go through, and the county acquired that property and transferred it to the city with that condition that it be used for roadway purposes. And that's what we're trying to get cleared off the title per se, so that it would be available for the city's disposition, you know, whether it's to this property owner or some other one. That, you know, that's obviously a decision for a future commission meeting, but that's kind of the background on at least something that we've been trying to work out, so that
it might help the situation.
Will that become an oversized, overweight route or like a size of that roadway for the trucks to turn in and turn
Well,
out?
it probably wouldn't be anything. It would just be, at that point.
A glorified driveway?
It would be a private driveway, yeah.
For now, but for the future, if it's something happens, you're gonna tell them now it's not a driveway and you have to get out?
No, presumably, there is no plan to extend 6th Street South anymore.
Yeah, MATC blocks it. And there's a lot of things there. So, okay, commissioners, we do have a motion in front of us. What would you like to do?
Make the motion and vote on it as is.
Okay, I'll make the motion.
All right.
Well, Donnie moves that the Plan Commission recommends that the Common Council approves a conditional use permit amendment to allow operations 24 hours per day, 7 days per week on a portion of the property at 561 West College Avenue after a public hearing.
Bukevich will second. Roll call, starting with me. Aye.
Guzekowski, aye.
Aldani, no.
Seifert, no.
Hannah, no.
Sullivan, aye.
Trillo, aye.
1, 2, 3, 4, 4, 3. Affirmative. Okay. Next up, 6D. Review of a temporary use permit for Tree Ripe Fruit Company for temporary sales of produce in the parking lot at 501 West Rosslyn, better known as Farm and Fleet. Lori?
Thank you, Mayor. The applicant, Tree Ripe Fruit, is requesting a temporary use permit to allow for the sales of produce from a commercial vehicle located within a portion of the Blaine's Farm and Fleet property located at 501 West Rosslyn Avenue. The proposed hours are between 8:30 a.m. and 11 a.m. only on 2 dates. That would be the date of June 26, 2021 and July 17, 2021. They're included within your packet. There's a approval from the assistant manager of Blaine's Farm and Fleet showing exactly where the proposed location was approved through Blaine's. Plan commissioners may recall that this applicant has come to us in the past, have been awarded the same temporary use permit for additional days in previous applications in December of 2017, 2018, 2019, and 2020. And as of writing this report, staff isn't aware of any complaints from any previous sales periods. Staff has consistently expressed concerns about the outdoor display and sale of merchandise and equipment in front of businesses, as they can detract from the character of the community. Therefore, staff have recommended, again, similar requests for this and other properties in the past. As it pertains to this property, Blaine's Farm and Fleet does have a planned expansion, but that will not commence until after these sales dates, so they will not have a direct impact on one another.
Okay. Thank you, Lori. Is that it?
That would be all.
Okay, and the applicant is with us. Hi, Lauren?
Yes.
Name and address, please.
Lauren Carvalho, 8001 West Norwich Street, Milwaukee, Wisconsin, 53220. I'm the managing director of Tree Ripe Fruit Company, and happy to answer any questions.
Okay, great. Again, we've kind of been through this. We're kind of getting away from it. Just a question. Have you ever considered selling at a farmer's market on a couple of selected dates?
Yeah, the only problem with that sometimes is we do sell bulk fruit. So we have, Georgia peaches from the oldest peach farm in Georgia. We sell them in 25-pound boxes. So the aesthetic with that in a farmer's market, it's very difficult, first off, to carry that around the farmer's market. And we do bring about 200 to 300 customers, and they're there with their vehicles. They come and they get the fruit, load their vehicle. So the aesthetic is a bit different. We do also go to farmers markets as well. We have a smaller truck that does sell 4-pound bags of peaches as well. But again, they're two separate.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, you know what? I will leave it open to questions. So, Fred, how about you? You want to start us?
Oh, I've been on this route a few times. I just think it detracts from the businesses when you start selling out of a truck on a big major facility. It's nice that you can do that, but I just don't feel comfortable with it. And I'd prefer to see it with Dawn and her market. I just think that that would be a good application for our farmers market. But when it gets down to a major business putting a truck for 4 hours, it just kind of doesn't sit well with me.
Okay. Thank you, Fred. Don?
I have no comments.
Chris?
My only comment is we've done this in the past, right? So that's what I thought. Thank you. That's it.
Okay. Don?
Yeah, they're referring to, because I'm the farmer's market manager, so that's why they're referring to it. Yeah, being at the farmer's market, whole different scenario. I'm thinking that he's, not thinking he's selling, you wouldn't have a booth, you would just have the truck located so that we would be sharing the community that's coming through. So, but I'm located right out this, in Drexeltown Square, and there's only so much parking. But in the future, I would love to talk to you about it, and maybe we can have you in this back lot or something like that, and then kind of share those resources. Yeah, I've gone and got the peaches in with COVID restrictions, and we were all 6 feet apart and all standing in a line, and you're gonna need, especially if there's COVID restrictions, you need a ton of space between 6 feet between all 200 people. So I think leaving it there for right now and then looking for in the future to maybe moving it.
Okay, thank you, Don. Matt?
I have nothing.
Christine?
Nothing.
I brought this up a few years ago, somehow incorporate this into the market. I do understand, you pull up with a semi-trailer, it would take some logistics to do. We do close off Main Street, and we understand a lot of people come through and they don't want to carry those 25-pound boxes, so we'd have to get some very young college kids to move peaches around. But I would, I'll support this. You've been there in the past, and people really do look forward to this and enjoy your product. But I would encourage you to talk to Ms. Skrillo here and look at the logistics of it, because we'd love to have another 200 people wander through the market on a couple of days. So with that, motion. Unless somebody has something else to say.
No.
No?
Okay.
Okay.
Hannah moved that the Plan Commission approves the temporary use permit for outdoor produce sales within the Farm and Fleet parking lot at 501 West Ralston Avenue with the following conditions. 1, that sales are limited to 1 commercial vehicle conducting outdoor produce sales. 2, that the sale of produce is limited to 2 dates of June 26, 2021 and July 17 of 2021. 3, that sales shall occur between the hours of 8:30 a.m. and 11 a.m. or as determined by the Plan Commission.
Guzikowski will second.
Roll call, starting with Chris, please.
Guzikowski, aye.
Aldani, aye.
Sleeper, no.
Hannah, yes. Aye.
Yes.
Sullivan, aye.
Krill, aye.
And Bukavich, aye. Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
But again, if you could, Dawn, give her your number. And that will get us to item 6E, which is a plan review. Site and building plans related to plans submitted by William Nelson for the seller for an outdoor patio and pavilion on the property at 812 West Oakwood Road. Hey, Bill. How are you?
Good, how are you?
Good. We'll need your name and address, please.
William Nelson, 811 East Elm Road.
Excellent. Carrie, would you like to start us off?
I would love to, but my screen is somehow not projecting.
Oh.
So this is we're way off here on the slides. This is a plan review for the seller. They want to have an outdoor patio with a covered pavilion portion. So this would not have walls per se. This is basically an open air facility just covered by a roof on pillars. It's not connected to the building. It's somewhat smaller than what was in your packet, 30 by 30 in order to remain outside of the floodway area. So thank you, Bill, for working with us and making sure that that's completely outside of that area. Wish I could show you on the screen, but I can't. So if you turn to your packets, there was a survey that was showing the proposed location for it. It's a standing seam metal roof gabled over the patio area itself. There is a movable bar that will have an 8-foot tall wall, but that's just behind the bar. There's no other walls that are going to be incorporated into this. So there is a suggested motion for approval with 3 conditions that are in your packet. Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Carrie. Bill, would you like to say something?
Yeah, this is going to be to the west of our existing patio. We found out last summer how important it was for people to be outside, and I mean, it was, obvious reasons, and we just want to expand on it this summer, and, we have a busy summer lined up for us, so.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have quite a few things going on.
Done a nice job back there too, by the way.
Thank you.
Very nice. So, questions, Christine?
Yes, actually, with the existing one that you just experienced with, how is the neighbors reacting to the noise or the traffic or? Because it's major residential, it's a lot of residential.
Yeah, it's residential. We really haven't, a lot of our neighbors are customers. I mean, I really haven't heard anything negative.
Okay. I have not, I don't know.
Our business has changed over the years. We've been there for 21 years, and our business, when we first opened, we were probably more of a bar. But I think we're more of a restaurant now. I mean, 60% of our sales is in food.
Okay.
And it's a family-friendly atmosphere. So, yeah, a lot of people come and they have lunch and they bring their kids, and we have a big yard. Kind of like the last part of Oak Creek that's untouched, so to speak.
Yeah.
The cellar's been there for so many years. So, yeah, it's a very casual, family-friendly atmosphere.
I like especially the upfront where you actually increase the parking stalls. So it makes it a little bit easier to maneuver around this area.
Our parking now is sufficient for what we have. The property to the east of us, between us and the tracks, is owned by a friend of mine.
Okay.
And when we have events, like we'll do a golf outing, we use his property for parking. It's a grass parking area.
I live on Oakwood, so I pass every single day by your restaurant. So.
Okay. Yeah, stop.
I'm sorry?
You need to stop?
I know where to find you. That's it for me.
Thank you, Christine. Before I continue with the commission, I want to apologize. Rich, I usually have the residents go first, and you waited the whole
That's
line
okay.
for it. So, what time is it? Please.
This is on yours, Bill. What type of structure is it? Oh, I'm sorry. Rich Graham's, 980 West Canterbury Court. My bedroom is within 200, 300 feet of your building. What type of structure is it going to be?
It's very
footings, 4 foot deep.
Yeah, it'll be footings. I wish we had a drawing. I should have
There we
a drawing.
go, I got it.
Okay, yeah, it's steel columns, as you can see on the drawing right here.
And what are you going to use this for?
Just an expansion of our business right now.
Bands?
No.
There will be no bands in here.
Well, what we do now is we have entertainment
in the tent.
on occasions.
In the tent.
Well, no, we don't even have a tent. We just took a tent down that we had for.
Last year, I heard them all summer.
Well, we had music last summer.
Yeah. So right here in front of everybody, you're not going to have any music in this area.
No, not bands. We'll have, what we usually do is
If you're not having any music, that's the only reason I sat here all night.
we have, we'll do entertainment. It's like acoustic, single man act. It's, we got a Friday night we have music on the patio. It's a background music. It's not a primary source of entertainment.
Very loud?
No amplifiers and all that kind of stuff. No.
So I'm not going to hear it 300 feet away.
No, I wouldn't think so. I mean,
I
can't
thought it
see
was
I
gonna
can't
be
see
for
if it-
bands, is it?
No, not at all. It's more for, we have a golf outing coming up for Oak Creek alumni in June. I mean, that's an expansion of our business.
But what?
Make it bigger to accommodate.
How it states, that it's going to be a pavilion, and
Sure.
what do I think? I'm going to be having an outdoor patio and pavilion with bands, because you've had bands there all last summer.
Well, we never had a band.
Well, I heard bands.
All right, well, my idea of a band is more than one person playing.
Sure. Shirley, name and address. Please.
Hi, Shirley Nelson, 811 East Elm Road. The only comment I'm going to make is, yes, there's going to be music, but it would be according to the noise ordinance to Oak Creek. So
there is going to be bands.
There will be not band. I don't know what you.
There'll be music. There'll be music.
There will be music. Yes, there will be music.
Loud.
And
We call
up
it live
until
music. Loud
until
music.
the 10 p.m. or noise ordinance, we
10
don't
p.m.
have
shut
it really loud. And one of the questions that Christine asked was, do we have neighbor complaints? And we don't.
Once in a while I called.
Okay.
Past 11.
Okay, so if
But,
yeah, so I mean, we always,
I was informed by
Are
the
very-
police that at 10:01 I could call if I
Okay.
have a problem.
yeah, we've always.
And I
been-
don't have a problem. I know Bill, so.
Sure,
you know,
and we've always been very respectful
But
to
my
our
wife
neighbors.
has became very ill for the last year, and and our bedroom is in that direct corner, the master bedroom,
Mhm.
you know? So it's been rough, and then obviously like fresh air in the summer, so.
Sure.
If you have any issues, if something happens, call me, ask for me. I mean, I'll make sure.
But that was the only reason I sat here all night, because I don't want to hear loud music, you know? And it's sure gonna hit me because you're coming further closer to me than the tent was, you know? Plus, thought you were going wetlands too.
Originally.
My fence blew down with them last big winds. I went down 3 feet. You know, and I think I'm up a little higher than you where I am, but the holes just filled up with water.
So you got yourself a well.
Well, you could just add the concrete, didn't have to water it.
Okay.
All right,
Rich,
good
again,
night,
if
gentlemen.
you do have problems, take Bill up on his offer, call him directly.
Well,
And Shirley said.
I'll just say I need a fish fry or something, right?
All right. I didn't hear that officially. But anyways, where were we? Anything else, Bill, Shirley?
I don't have anything.
No. Matt?
Engineering has nothing.
Dawn?
No, nothing for me.
Chris?
This will be a nice addition back there. We spend a lot of time back there, and it just really makes, adds to the ambiance that's already there. So thanks for doing it.
I have no questions.
Fred?
I think it's a good idea to get people out, especially during the summer. The only question I have is the hours of operation. Is there a limit that you have? How late do you go in the evening?
Right now, currently, a lot of people go sit outside at night on a patio, and we don't really restrict that as far as time. A lot of people, have a cigarette outside, and our business is open until 2 a.m. But as far as a pavilion goes, it'll be in operation till 10 o'clock at night, the noise ordinance. We'll have music back there till some sort of entertainment, like we'll have the TVs on, to watch a ball game or whatever, but we don't operate that. It won't be open after 10 o'clock, but people will still be allowed to sit back there, but we won't be selling beverages or promoting it that way as far as people, like music, there won't be any music after 10 o'clock.
And Fred, I mean, the pavilion is mostly being used for specific events. And this is a need that we have because so many people do want to be outside. And obviously because of the weather in Wisconsin, we've had to rent tents, which are very pricey. So it's been a very big need for us for events. So it is mostly going to be event purposes for the pavilion.
Thank you.
Okay. I guess my only question, it's on a poured slab, right? Footing slab, and then
It'll be
picnic
elevated.
tables, and away you go.
Yeah, it'll be slightly elevated above our existing patio. We have that nice, we have a water feature in the back. We want to keep it up above that, so we're looking down at that. It's kind of.
Very good. And again, you guys had to relearn your business a little bit differently.
Yeah,
It wasn't the same ballgame as last year, so hopefully this increases business as well. It gives you that extra patronage you really need, so I'm good with it. So if nothing else, motion.
Secret news that the planning commission approves the site and building plans submitted by William Nelson Cellar Pub for the property at 812 West Oakwood Road with the following conditions. One, that all relevant code requirements remain in effect. Two, that the plans are revised to include locations and screening for any new mechanical equipment, transformers, and utilities. Three, that all detailed revised plans are submitted in digital format to the Department of Community Development prior to submission of permit application.
Guzekowski, a second.
Roll call, please, starting with Don.
Aldani, aye.
Seifert, aye.
Hannah, aye.
Sullivan, aye.
Carrillo, aye.
Gavich, aye.
Guzekowski, aye.
Okay, there you go.
Awesome.
Thank you very
everybody.
much. Good luck. That will bring us to adjournment, our first face-to-face in about a year.
Yeah.
So, not a record, but we did okay.
Carrillo moves to adjourn at 8:08.
Seifert, seconds.
Roll call, starting with Fred.
Seifert, aye.
Hannah, aye.
Sullivan, aye.
I'm gonna turn it off here.
Gavich, aye.
Guzekowski, aye.
Aldani, aye.
All right, good night, everybody. Thank you, staff, appreciate it.